So let's take another look at the Sunday papers now. We're joined this morning by UK editor of The Big Issue, Paul McNamee, and host of Westminster Insider at Politico Europe, Sacha O'Sullivan. So welcome back to both of you.
Paul, thanks.
Hello again.
And in the last hour, we kind of reflected on the fact that the Peter Mandelson story continues to dominate the front pages, but the inside pages as well, we can see now. Paul, you've picked out a double-page spread in The Observer, which covers a lot of the different elements, but you particularly want to focus on the donors, Labour's donors putting pressure on Keir Starmer.
Yeah, that's how they're kicking off the story, and it looks at a meeting on Friday at Chequers with what they call wealthy backers and donors. They don't name any, it doesn't say how many were there, but it says that these people had a message for Keir Starmer. They support him for now, but he must get a grip. But then, as you go through the story, that feels as though that's already moved on, because some of the other noises that Rachel Sylvester reports on here, coming from senior figures, are saying things like, it's like when Boris Johnson knew it was the end, that he'd run out of road. Everyone knows it's going to happen. They're all looking to see who'll pull the trigger. So that there's clouds are gathering around Keir Starmer. And I suppose the other aspect of this is Morgan McSweeney, who increasingly is, to the British public, I think, is seen as this puppet master who's controlling so much of what is going on in British political and civic life, that it looks like he is the one who is going to take the fall. And again, there's quotes around that here and in some of the other stories. But whether or not he does, and whether or not then Starmer can exist without him, all these things are still to be resolved. But if this is a reflection on where we are, it is a ticking clock for Keir Starmer.
Let's just stay with the Morgan McSweeney stuff, because his name is mentioned in this article and in other articles.
Yeah.
And I think it's in the Times where he's mentioned saying that he's at a low ebb. He feels like he's let his boss down. A source here is quoted as saying Morgan created Keir, and Keir is totally dependent on him. If he gets rid of Morgan, it's game over. I mean, you know these guys, Sacha. What do you think is going on between the two of them?
Well, and I think that will really be the question of the next couple of days, is how long will it take Morgan McSweeney to resign, and how long will he stay in that post? Some people are saying that he could stay until the by-election, which is February 26th. The evening of Gorton and Denton, which will be an interesting one. Some people I was speaking to at the end of last week were basically saying, Gorton Denton, we could have squeaked by, now it's going to be a bloodbath. Wow. And I think how much protection Morgan McSweeney resigning will actually offer Keir Starmer will be of real consequence. I don't think it is that much, and I think actually if we're saying Morgan McSweeney has to go, as you know, it's been rightly pointed out in this piece, how tied the two men are together, Keir Starmer allowed Morgan to make a lot of his decisions. And that was, you know, the kind of old adage of advisors advise, ministers decide. I don't know that that was actually true in this instance. You know, Keir Starmer is left holding the bill, but he let Morgan make a lot of these calls.
Yeah, so interesting to see what happens with him, and interesting the timing potentially of any kind of challenge, if there is one. But let's move on. Well, I say if there is one, I think everyone seems to agree with that. Let's move to page 6 of the Mail next, though, Sacha, because Gordon Brown spoke out yesterday. We've seen a lot of the old guard Labour figures coming out and having their say. So remind us of what Brown's intervention is meant.
And Gordon Brown's intervention has kind of two parts to it. Part of it is him saying, look, I know Keir Starmer and he's a man of integrity. The other part is looking at Peter Mandelson, and I kind of smiled reading this piece in the Mail because it says, Mr Brown, who has never forgiven Mandelson for backing Tony Blair as leader in 1994. This is an old grudge that Gordon Brown has against Peter Mandelson, and has, I think, been quite rightly vindicated. But here he's talking about actually the leaking of incredibly sensitive market information to Jeffrey Epstein while he was business secretary in Gordon Brown's cabinet during the worst of the 2008 financial crisis. I mean, he was emailing Jeffrey Epstein in cabinet, from the cabinet table. And Gordon Brown here is very rightly saying, I see this as financial crime. This was financially secret information, and it meant that Britain was at risk. And I think that is part of the story that Keir Starmer spoke about Prime Minister's questions this week, which is, I guess, potentially the most problematic one legally for Peter Mandelson.
Well, exactly, and we've seen the emails emerge from the Epstein files, haven't we? Police are carrying out investigations. We've seen them visiting properties of Peter Mandelson, but no arrests have been made, we should say, at this stage.
Yes.
And no response from Peter Mandelson about those allegations at this point. I mean, Gordon Brown was quite forceful in his interview, and as you say, the beef goes way back to the beginning of New Labour, but he brought him back in, didn't he? Despite Mandelson having lost 2 jobs under Blair. I'm not questioning Gordon Brown's judgment, but there's something that Peter Mandelson has had over this party.
Yeah, for a considerable amount of time, for almost 2 generations now, he has been able to find a way, even when he's been booted out by Tony Blair, the man who he was so close to, and then still come back and still come back. I think it was something of a surprise when Starmer decided to bring him back. It's been discussed quite a lot about the reason for that and the links with Trump. But even so, I mean, this looks like it's the end of Mandelson for good. But given how Mandelson has been, as you say, in the past with the Labour Party, well, you do wonder if there is going to be some kind of fourth life. Never mind a second life to Mandelson. You'd like to think not. I mean, I think what he was doing with somebody like Epstein, not just being pally with him, but also given that financial information and really costing the country, you'd like to think that the full force of the law would come down on him, but who knows?
Yeah. OK. Move on to the front of the... Something interesting. You want me to do this one because I'm into the red arrows.
No, you said you're very interested in military kit.
Let's go through the reporting here. The red arrows are going to be flying foreign jets because that Hawk T1, made by BAE Systems from 1979, has run its course. One would have thought they're going to need to get a new one, but they can't buy new ones. Is that the report?
Well, I mean, this massive banner headline: "Red Arrows Heroes Flying Foreign Jets," with a big slammer after it. If you look to the top, it says, "Labour dithers ex-pilots fear." That word fear, Britain could end up with. Fear is doing a lot of heavy lifting. It is because they have to put out the tender. The government have to put out the tender. Who is going to build this new series of jets for the Red Arrows? And it may be they go to some foreign builders because apparently there's one potential plane builder in Britain who could do it, but they haven't made a prototype yet. And that, I guess, they're running out of time. And this is this very, very angry piece in the Express, which I think is speaking to a particular demographic that says if they look up and think, "I don't like that. That was made in Maine. I can't believe it.
Can't have an American jet flying over them."
You know, so
imagine a French jet.
Don't even.
People wouldn't stand for it.
I think it's looking like it's going to America. But then aren't we supposed to be good allies with America? So what's the problem here? Sunday Express.
Yeah. Go on, you moved on.
I was going to move us on to this article in, I don't know which paper it is, it's the Times, Sunday Times.
Yeah.
Men over 65 are more likely to wed than those in their 20s. Yeah.
So I really like this story, but I had a totally different reading of it than the person who actually wrote this report. So the kind of report says pension-aged men, 5.6 per 1,000 are getting married, compared to 4.1 per 1,000 of men in their early 20s, I should say. And the kind of author of the report said this is devastating news. I actually thought it was quite sweet.
Yeah,
I was like,
what?
Yeah, you know,
I
guess there's questions
Most
about.
older women.
Yeah. I guess there's questions about maybe people aren't getting married enough in their 20s. I don't know how much that matters. I was saying earlier, weddings are just expensive. Life is expensive.
Well, exactly. I think they do hint at that perhaps people are putting off weddings a bit later in life. Although I think the
that's quite a long time to put off. Yeah, we'll do it next year. No, we'll do it next year.
Keep on saying. Oh, they are.
But there are real financial pressures on young couples now.
Maybe pensioners are the only ones who can afford to get married.
Maybe that's the conclusion.
Let's move on to the next story.
Oh, this is another of your...
I was Googling
Two things
this.
I learned about Kamali. He loves pelicans and military jets.
And I know there's a great
we're on to
white pelican
story.
in central London.
We've nailed the agenda for you.
Which I thought was a heron, but no, so I'm not that into birds, obviously. But tell us about this story.
This is amazing. There was the Dalmatian pelican. I'm sure you're familiar with it being a pelican man. That Dalmatian pelican used to fly across Britain many, many years ago. It's been extinct for thousands of years, they say. Wow. It has got a wingspan of 3 metres and it eats 1 kilogram of fish a day. There's a plan by an organisation called Restore, who are a conservation company, to reintroduce the Dalmatian pelican to parts of Britain so that they can have this animal back, particularly around, I think it said, the Suffolk Broads, Essex Marches, and that kind of part of the world. But Mike Cohen from the National Federation of Fishermen is very angry. He thinks that this apex predator, as he calls it, is going to eat too many fish, and that's going to cause all sorts of problems. However, apparently they are very clever, these birds, because the spokesman for Restore said Dalmatian pelicans primarily eat fish that are not prized by fishermen.
What does that mean?
So they can pick
How do they know?
They can pick out. They're very smart birds.
Yeah, they're apex
pelicans.
predators.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other quote I like is from someone from the Countryside Alliance that said they've been extinct so long, Julius Caesar would have struggled to find one in 55 BC.
But he was always looking for them, wasn't he?
And now, hopefully, they'll be back. Paul, Sasha,
Good to see
thanks
you
so
back.
much for that.
Thanks so much.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?